Scott, I want to start with you. We see Governor Pritzker saying there is no emergency in Chicago that would make the National Guard necessary at this time. And we are seeing the takeover of D.C. play out. Of course, this region you're very familiar with. A crime is down, at least for the time being. Could a federal deployment to Chicago actually help this city?
Well, the president has to be invited to bring the National Guard to Chicago. Crime is not, may not be a crime emergency, but people don't feel safe. And you just saw the statistics that showed that there was a large amount of violent crime in Chicago, but Chicago's not even in the top 10 of the most violent cities. Let's remember, D.C. is different. It's a federal enclave. The president, by most accounts, legally and factually and practically, can disperse the National Guard. He controls them in D.C. But there were just 10 violent crimes in D.C. over the weekend. As a former prosecutor, I know that police presence doesn't really work. More arrests doesn't work. What really works is community policing, public-private partnerships, and giving young people an alternative to violence and gangs versus what they're involved in right now. And so what you see is the mayor of D.C. applauding this federal partnership, if that is what it is. The chest thumping and, we're going to do a federal takeover doesn't solve crime. I'm not sure it makes people feel safe. And so you're looking at a showdown with this chest pumping by the feds in Chicago. The Chicago Police Department and the mayor doesn't have to cooperate with the ICE agents, and the ICE agents are free to be there. In regard to the National Guard, legally, the governor has to invite or have to ask for that based on an insurrection or an emergency, and you just don't have that. I'd rather see the feds, the White House, work with the governor and the mayor of Chicago in a federal partnership to really reduce crime and to walk the streets with a coordinated effort, as opposed to being having a forced narrative here that really doesn't work politically or practically.
The CDC in a disarray at the moment after HHS Secretary RFK Jr. fired the director after just weeks on the job. The new acting director does not have a medical background. Does this turmoil put a target on RFK's back? We're seeing bipartisan calls for his resignation. Is his job on the line?
Well, his job is only on the line if Donald Trump says his job is on the line. And so far, Donald Trump has said he's got a free rein. It's really disappointing and puts us at deep risk, this country, in regard to RFK Jr.'s leadership in regard to these vaccines. Of course, the level of commitment or the bar is not competence and leadership and excellence. It's, do you support the president one way or the other, vis-a-vis Trump too? And here, RFK told Congress and the Senate, rather, that he did not disbelieve in these vaccines, and yet everything he's done has shown that he doesn't believe in the vaccines, despite science that says otherwise. And when you terminate these very qualified scientists who say that the organization is not following science, reliable science and experts, it puts all of us at risk and raises the question as to whether competence is being compromised for political loyalty or for political purposes. And so it is in disarray, but the Republicans in the White House drive this negative narrative. Parents ought to feel safe about what's coming out of the CDC, the Department of Health. And right now, I don't think a lot of Americans feel safe because they don't know what to believe or not to believe.